Hello and welcome to the second in our PC Editor Masterclass series. For those of you who are joining in, this is the series where we show people how to use the PC Editor for TrainSim World and how to use all the different complex tools and systems within it. Tonight you'll be joined by designer Michael, who will be talking about service mode and how to create your own timetables. Now this will be a pre-recorded video, roughly about an hour long, but if you do have any questions, we'll be active in the chat, so still ask away, and if there's anything that goes unanswered after tonight, please come join us on the forums and we can talk more directly there too. As a reminder, the editor is a free tool you can install if you own TSW4 on Steam or Epic, but you will have to download the editor through Epic Games and you will need an Epic account. If you log into the store, you can just search TrainSim World Editor and you can find it to download and install. And finally, for all the good bits, check out the description where we have a rough plan for tonight, as well as links to our forums and our PC Editor discussion community, where there are plenty of assets and guides you can look to help yourself using the editor. But for now, here's Michael, and here's Service Mode and Timetables on the PC Editor.
Hello, and welcome to this Service Mode Timetable Masterclass. I'm Michael, and I'm going to take you through all of what's included to create a Service Mode Timetable in TSW4. In the public editor. So in this masterclass, it'll be split up into different chapters. I'll be focusing on timetable file creation, all of the timetable defaults, formation nodes, service nodes, instruction nodes, the service timings, layers, and dependencies. Later on, we'll be covering stuff both in and out of the editor that we'll be needing to do. But let's start off with creating our timetable file. So let me close this down for a second. Go back into the content browser. I'm working from my own area here. Definitely recommend you making your own plugin to do this. I've already got some pre-prepared folders here. We'll get back to this timetable later because there'll be one that I've already created for further troubleshooting. So let's open this stream timetable file and get ourselves a timetable. So if you right click here, go into miscellaneous, and then in here we'll have a root timetable definition. If you click on that, we've got ourselves a root timetable. Name it something accordingly. So stream timetable will do. Then we'll load this up. Actually, before we do that, I will set it to play in editor. That way it will come up at the top. So within the stream timetable, the first things that we need to set out are the timetable definitions, or the timetable defaults, sorry. So in here, we've got your timetable name and description. These will appear if there's more than one timetable already assigned. The route needs to be assigned in here. So that'll be Brighton Eastbourne route definition. Without this, you won't be able to play your timetable in editor. As you saw before, it came up with an error saying that the wrong level was loaded up. You need this in here. It is indeed available for service mode. It's not going to be the default timetable. We're not going to have it looping. All of this can stay ticked. The Pathfinder flags need to all be set, which they are. The front end start time, so this will be the time of the first few services that are in the menus. So if you want to set this, you can. Let's just set it to 6 AM. The simulation start time, we'll get to simulating the timetable later, but I'm just going to set this up now in preparation for simulating the timetable later. So our first service is going to be around 6 AM. So if we put 5:50 in there. And then the simulation time limit, if you know your timetable is only going to be 24 hours, obviously you can put 24 hours in here. Our timetable's not going to be that long, so let's just give it maybe 2 hours, something like that. Make sure that you're using TSW4 scoring, so it coincides with all other content. We don't need any available tutorials. Down here, the timetable actor, we need to find route timetable. Dispatcher, we need the newest dispatcher AI. Yard manager, we need the latest yard manager AI. And we need the latest timetable version. Now, if you hover over all of these, it gives you more information about what these specific things do. Make sure you have the latest, basically. Otherwise, certain things won't work as intended. We'll talk about data tracks once we've simulated a timetable. So potentially, this is all that's required from you from timetable defaults. We're not going to fill these out because they're not too much of a requirement at the moment. Timetable target platforms are important as well. We want all of these ticked. Otherwise, if we were to publish this timetable, it's not going to be available for any of these platforms. So definitely make sure those are all ticked as well. So we'll compile and save. And that's the timetable default sorted. So let's get started with throwing a formation in here. So create a new formation. If you right click on the blueprint editor, you'll find that there are different instructions. So you have create a new formation, create a new service, couple, go to, load unload, uncouple, and end service. I'll go through each of these as we build up a service in here. So let's call this formation something like 377 times 6, 1. You can label these however you like. It's neatest to do it this way. Let's give it a service. So service 1. You're better off giving them their names of their actual service names. Especially do that in the friendly name, because the friendly name is what's going to appear in the in-game menus. So let's just say that this train's going from Brighton to Lewis. The description is the description of the service that will appear in the menu as well. So you would put something like drive. Oops, not dive. Drive this service from Brighton to Lewis. The map points are what appear on the minimap in the menus. The specific data that needs to go in these for it to appear correctly. To find these locations, you will want to find the spawn point locations. That's easily found. You can find that in the station directory, and I will show you where that is right now. So if we find Brighton Eastbourne content, and then if we just search in the search bar here, station directory. Is it station directory? It's not station directory I want. It's the route definition I want. Good start. So in the route definition, here we go. You've got all the information that's required of the route. If we scroll down here, we have all the spawn points. So in here, you'll find all of the locations that are required. So we want to grab Brighton and Lewis. So let's put those in two here. So we want Brighton and we want Lewes. You can put map waypoints in if you require them. So say if your service, let me just open up the route map right now. Say if your service starts at Brighton, goes to Lewes, and then goes back to Brighton, you may need a waypoint, or if your service goes even further, you'll definitely need waypoints for the return journey. So if you're going from A to B to C, back to A, that's what these waypoints are for. To spawn a driver NPC, you'll need to spawn an engineer. That's always required. You can create a service after delay, but if we're doing a full 24-hour service timetable, you'll need to assign an actual time for it to start. So we'll say that this service starts at 6 AM. The minimum dwell time, as the sort of help tip says there, allows you to have some time to set up the train before the service actually starts. So we'll just keep that to be 1 minute. The priority is the priority of the service. So say if you want a higher priority, you'd give it a higher number, like 1. We'll just keep it as 0 for now because it's going to be the only train that's running at the moment. The service class is the type of service that it is, which is a passenger. You can change it to freight if you have a freight train. Adding an end of train device, or a FRED if you prefer to call it that. We don't require this on a passenger service. You'll want this on a freight service. We are not going to limit the speed. And to give it an immediate handover means that the AI will immediately hand over the service to the player when required. Down here, we have the passenger information system, or PIS. In here, you'd put the service number of the train, the service operator, so we'll just put Southern down here. The service display tab flags, so this will allow you to display it on the PIS boards at the station and display them on the trains. You can also link to previous destinations that this service has been to, because this service is the first one that we've implemented. You don't need this ticked. In here, you've also got expected AI performance. So say you're finding the timings of your train to be way too tight for the player to actually achieve. You could potentially change the AI performance a little bit lower if required. Well, we're going to keep it to what is preset. And then you've got overrides for acceleration and deceleration. We're going to keep it the same because it's not required. Let's go back to the formation node, because I haven't even set this up yet. So in the formation node, it's looking for a train entry. So let's give it a train entry. You can search for them through here. If you've got a lot of DLCs in here, it's going to take ages to find. So let's go back to the content browser. And then if we go to the gameplay folder, we go to timetable of the route that we're looking for, and in formations, oh look, we've already got quite a few formations already made for us. Thank you, gameplay team. So let's put in a an 8-car train. So if we drag this into our stream timetable, place that in here. We probably want to change that to 8 now to correspond to the correct amount of units. To spawn in a vault means that it's not part of this world. It's going to be held in memory until you allow this train to leave one of the portals. We'll come back to portals. Spawn configuration will just keep as default. Running stop preset will keep as that, although you can select it as either parked or running active. Spawn facing forwards, you can spawn facing backwards if you require. The location of where it spawns. Right, we need to pick a location of where this train is going to spawn. So let's do that now. You can either select on the map and you'll get this lovely thing here. We will select it on the map rather than in level. I purely do this because sometimes having the level loaded gets a bit slow. Using this map, it doesn't lag as much. So let's place our train down around here. And then if we look in the level, that's where we've placed our first train down. So if we go back to the stream timetable, it's now got a ribbon location, a ribbon reference. And then remember, anytime that you do stuff like this, compile and save to make sure that everything's working. So we have set up a formation node. We have set up a service node. I think I've gone through everything. No, there's one more thing I want to talk about service nodes before we move on. To make sure a service is playable, you've got to tick this. Untick it, it becomes AI only. If you do have an AI only service, you'll want to hide it from the front end. Otherwise, it'll still be something you can select in the menu, but you won't be able to drive. So if you want an AI service, this is the setup you'll want. If you want a player service, this is the setup you'll want. And I think that's everything to do in formation nodes and service nodes. So let's give this train some instructions. So if we drag off this service node, we can now allow it to couple, allow it to go somewhere, allow it to load, unload, and allow it to uncouple, or we can end the service. So if we give it a load, unload instruction, and these are all the defaults for the load, unload instruction. So does this train require an arrival time? No, it's currently at the station stationary, so we don't need to tick that. It will, however, have a scheduled completion time. So it will need to complete this, say, we could put 6:01, or alternatively, we can use the minimum wait time. You can select a load percentage. This is most commonly going to be used for if you want to unload passengers, so we don't need this right now. We do, however, need to specify a specific cargo type. That then allows us to put the cargo type in here. So if we go into here, go into the search bar and search for passenger, because that's what we want to do. Alternatively, if you were to build a freight train, you could go up to somewhere where it can fill up with fuel, fill it with fuel. You could fill it up with any other cargo, so long as that cargo is available at that load unload point. One thing we also do is hide objective completion, otherwise you'll get pinged every time that you've completed an instruction. And I think that's everything we need to do in here. Yep. So let's move on to a go-to node. Now it defaults as a stop at, and there's no location set currently. So the destination name will be what appears in the text box in the top left-hand corner. So if we have a look on the route map, let's take this train to London Road. So if we put London Road, in here, set the destination to be London Road, Platform 2. It then allows us to have the ribbon location and reference. We don't need any go vias because it should be fairly straightforward to find the path. The go-to condition, we will want this to be a within. If it's an overlap, it won't use the stopping point. So we change this to within, give it plenty of go-to tolerance. So let's just give it 500. Here you can have the option for the objective to fail if the player passes over the destination or not, which is just a simple tick box. You can give it a scheduled arrival time, which we will. However, we do have the option to give it an explicit time, or we can use a simulated time. We'll select it to be a simulated time, and I'll show you how you get the simulated time later down the line. We can also give it a scheduled completion time if required. I don't think we need it. No, we don't need this. There can be a waiting time applied if you need to apply a waiting time. You can ensure that the trains stay on the main line and don't take any other paths. You can allow reversing, which we don't require. You can allow it to go through a manually controlled main line, which we're not going to, so we don't need to tick it. It will be a stopping point. If you were to untick this, it then changes to a go via, but we'll keep it to stopping. And then dispatch beyond instruction is what you require when it's like a through station and you need the dispatch not to block you beyond that point. So we shall do that. And then you have initial pathing search direction. You can set that to any. It should be able to find its way easy enough. But if it doesn't, you can ensure that it's fine looking for paths in front of it, behind it, etc. Again, like we did with the load unload, we'll hide the objective completion, and everything else is set the same. And that should be our stop at instruction done. I'll show you the couple and uncouple nodes here, but we won't be utilizing them for this service. So this is our couple node. As you see, there's 3 separate parts here. So your service instructions will go into this one, and then your formations will go into here. So if I was to just make a copy of this 377, that could go in there, and then this 377 could couple up to this other 377. Actually, we might do this further down the line, so I'll keep it to one side. For now, we'll continue the pattern of load unloads and stop ats. So we'll go up to Muscombe, we'll go to Farmer. I didn't actually change this, here we go. Alternatively, we don't have to put the display destination display name in here. We can just keep it to being the destination for the instruction. It just saves on having to have, well, for us, localized text. So you can keep it that way if you prefer. And then our final stop at will be Lewes. And I think we'll arrive into, let's say, platform 5. Now, if I go back to this 377 and pick a location, if we were to put this 377 here, which it doesn't fit because it's too long, let's change it to be a... We could do a 3-car. I think a 3-car seems the most reasonable. And we'll change this one to be a 3-car as well. Actually, no, we won't. We'll do two 4-cars. 2 4-cars to turn them into an 8-car. Now that we've changed the formations, we'll have to update the cached formations. So if we try to compile and save now, okay, it has actually done it. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you do need to update the formations before compiling and saving. So let us have a look at the route map. There's not really enough room for us to do the coupling here, but we'll do it anyway, just for tutorial purposes. So within this coupling node, we can now give it a destination of Lewes platform 5. Now, if we are wanting to enter this section whilst there's a rail vehicle in here, we can't just say to the service, go to Lewes platform 5, because it'll probably want to try and stop here, and it can't currently. So what we do to combat that is force a specific location. So if we clear this ribbon reference and pick a location and say we only want to go here, that ribbon reference will update. And what we also need to make sure is that this previous instruction has a for specific location that matches this one, which it already does, luckily. The ribbon location also needs to be the same. And I think that should be fine. Yes, it is. So we want to couple the front of this formation that's over here to the back of this formation, which is already preset to. You can go from back to front, back to back, front to front, however your formations are orientated, you can couple them. We'll give it a friendly name, so we'll just call this 377. And again, we'll hide the objective completion. So I think this is a fairly good endpoint to have. So we shall include an end service. Although before I do, you do also have an uncouple node. Set up similarly to the couple node, the uncouple node just does the reverse. So you can have as many rail vehicles as you want to uncouple. So we change this to 2. The outgoing rail vehicles will update down here, and so on. We won't include this for this demonstration. We'll just end this service. So we'll compile. We can't compile. Why can we not compile? The path direction is compatible with the couple side. Okay. I think what we have here hang on a minute. Live troubleshooting. This is what you get. Tell you what, we'll do that instead. What? Okay. I think I know what the problem is. I have a feeling, yes, that is technically the back of the formation because the front is there. So what we want to do is say we want to couple back to back. There we go. That's fixed that. So let's put our service node back into here. There we go. So the problem I had there was your formation and your two formations, you need to know what orientation they are before putting them in here. Mistakenly, I thought I was facing forward. I, in fact, wasn't. So, I think we've covered all of the nodes available. So now we can cover I suppose testing this service within the editor. So ensure that your timetable is play in editor. It is, where you can find out. It's at the top there. Let us go back to my area that I'm working in, stream timetable. We need to make sure that this is saved, which it is now. Now, if you want to sort of live test what you've built, there's two things you need to ensure. One is that you load in at the correct time of the service start. So if you bring up the console command and you type in ts2.dbg.setLocalDateTime, we'll do it just before 6 AM, so that gives us some leeway before the start of the service. So let's do that. And because we haven't simulated the timetable yet, we will need to use ts2.dbg.force timetable start with incomplete data, and then put a 1 next to that to ensure that it's true. Now we should be able to load in and see if this service actually runs. We're just going to wait for it to load up now. Just takes a few minutes. Here we go. So if we were to take over this service, once we get to the driver's seat, yeah, we'll just hop in here. Close all the doors. Here we go. So as you can see, all the details that we've put in have all appeared here, including where we need to go in terms of spawn point locations. And all of our instructions will appear at the top here. We'll just wait for it to actually begin the service. It shouldn't take too long now. And there we go. So from here, we can set the train up, start the load and load, and play the service as we've built it. And obviously now that we've got one service set up, if you want to have another service that basically does the same instructions, you can just copy and paste. Okay, let's move on to... actually, whilst we're still in here, there's a few other things that you can do. So if you click anywhere on this blueprint and press C, you can add a comment. Now, it's up to you whether you want to use these or not, but once you have a service timetable that has loads and loads of these different services, you'll want to comment on what these services do, and you can do with these little comment bubbles. And totally up to you. It's just nice to have nice and neat work, and you know what all of the separate services have done if you ever come back to your work and don't remember any of it. What else can I cover? Layers. So, on East Coast Way, the train's included with a 377 and the 66. However, DLC for the 313 came out. What if you want to add a 313 to your timetable? This is where layers come in. So, on the left-hand side, we've got a few entries here for formations, services, and layers. If we just click on the plus thing here, we can add a new layer. Let's name it accordingly. So, we'll just name it 313 for now. On the right-hand side in the details panel, you have the name of the layer and which platform it's going to be on. We want it all ticked so that it's available on all platforms. The data tracks will get generated once we simulate the timetable down the line. Required DLC plugins. This is what allows the 313 to be found, so we need to put in here the 313 DLC location. I will just look for that now so that we have it included. So that'll be East Coast Way SN plus 313 2. And here you can give it a range of months. Say if you were to do a Christmas special train, you may want it just in December. Since we're going to be doing a 24-hour timetable, just a standard one, we'll just keep it from January to December. So, like we've done before, create a new formation, name it how you feel, so 313. Pick a location for this 313 to sit. let's have it for now. Start at Lewis here. Of course, we need to actually assign a loco to it before we can actually do that. So let us do that. Where's the 313? It'll be up here somewhere, won't it? Brighton Eastbourne, East Coast Way, 313. Tell you what, I'll grab it from the gameplay content timetable in here. So we'll just have a 3-car. Let's put this. Make sure that you have the node selected before you do this. Usually I'm working on 2 screens, so I'm just getting used to working on 1 screen again. So that's all set. We'll pick a location to be there. Compile and save. And that should hopefully appear. Now it's spawned so that the front is this way. We don't want that. So if we spawn it facing backwards, and then compile and save, and then just press F5 to refresh the route map, it now appears correctly. So let's give this 313 a service node, and we'll call this 313 service 1. Give it a friendly name, so this will be 313 from Lewis to Brighton. Give it a description. Make sure the map points are correct as well. Spawn an engineer. We'll just create after delay for this one so that it begins. Actually, no, we won't. We'll put this one as 6 AM as well. Minimum dwell time is already set. Service operator is Southern. And that's everything that is required there. So what we'll do with this one, we'll skip out all of the interim stations, and we'll just set this to go to Brighton. What platform do we want at Brighton? Platform 8. I'll put it into platform 8. Actually, instead of creating a load unload, we can in fact copy one of these, which saves us time having to set it up. I'll also include one here so that it can load up with passengers before leaving. And then once it arrives, we'll end service. Make sure that this is set within. Compile and save. So now we have successfully put in a 313 into a layer. So if you have the 313 DLC, it will now appear in the timetable, along with some other 313s that we can include in here. Lovely stuff. So if we go into our timetable now, yes. The last thing I want to show you, if I find the stream timetable, there we go. So you've built out the timetable how you want. One thing you want to check before going any further is to ensure that you don't have any dependencies on oh no, that's not what I want to show. what I want to show is, aha, yes. Say we have another 377 coming from Eastbourne into Brighton. We have this 313 in the way. You can do dependencies to ensure that this train has priority over that train, or vice versa. To do that, you can either use the base service priority that we went over before, or at whichever instruction that you need it to do, you need it to have the priority over, you can use these nodes that hook into these nodes. And like a flowchart, it goes from left to right. So this instruction will have to occur before the other one fires. And I think that's everything that's required in Editor for you to build a timetable. Now, this is not going to work as a service timetable yet. You can play this in the editor like we have before, but for it to be playable within the game, you'll need to simulate it. So we will need to go over how timetable simulations work. We'll also be covering how to interpret the output log after you've done a simulation. I'll show you that on the pre-prepared timetable that I've got, because that way I can also show you how we troubleshoot any issues with the timetable. But that'll get covered in the next section. So now that we've created a service timetable, we'll now go over all of what's required for timetable simulation. So the creation of a batch file, getting data tracks, interpreting the output log after a simulation, and going over looking at the playback tool for any troubleshooting that's required. So for us to make a start on that, we will need to find the file paths for the timetable file as well as the executable for the editor. So if we right click on the timetable, show in Explorer, sorry, that's just appeared on my second screen. Let me drag it onto this one so you can see it. This is the location of where our timetable is on my computer. The file path could be slightly different for you. This is what it appears for me. Keep this safe for now because we will need this for later. So let me minimize this. To do a simulation, I recommend you close the editor. So we shall do that now. And I'll go over the creation of a batch file with you. So it's pretty simple. If you just make a text document, and we can name this TSW4 sim, for example. At the moment, that's just a simple text document. If we edit it to .bat, it'll come up with a warning. Are you sure you want to change the file name extension? Yes. And now it is a batch file. So if we open this up in any sort of Notepad program, I'll use Notepad++. You can now script in what we require in this empty bit here. I've already got one prepared, so let me open this one up. So the two things that we need in here are the location of where the editor.exe is, and the name of the editor, and the fact that we want to run a simulation of the timetable and then the location of where the timetable is. This is where we need this file path. So in here we have the plugin name, which is my name. Whatever your plugin name is, you'll want to put that in there as well. The folder that the timetable is in, and the name of the UAsset itself. Make sure that this part is in quotation marks, and make sure that the whole line looks like this, otherwise the batch file won't run correctly. So let me close Notepad++ for now, and then if we want to run this, all we have to do is just double click, and this will start running the simulation. Now, when this window appears, the first thing it'll do is throw up quite a few warnings. All it is telling you that there are various DLCs that aren't installed. That's fine. All we're worried about is the East Coastway content and the 313. So in just a moment, yep, it's going to go through all of those. Don't worry too much about it. Apologies, we should probably have a warning about flashing images. And it starts simulating. So we'll let it simulate for now. As it's going through, you can see the time that it starts, which is 4:50, all the way up to 6:50. We may need to change the times on the timetable to ensure that the trains actually get to their end destination at the end of the simulation. So if we keep an eye on this, you don't have to keep an eye on it all the time. You can just let it run and then read the output log later. Fortunately, it's finished. So if we just close without sending a crash report, it's just the way that the batch file works. We will now open the editor up, and hopefully, if we've had a successful simulation, it will have generated some data tracks for our timetable. While we load up the editor, I will access the output logs. Now, to locate where your saved log files are, it'll be slightly different on yours, on your editor, but it should be under Train Sim World MOD, TS2 prototype, saved, and logs. And the latest one we've done is just now, so we can open this up in Notepad. What we'll do is we'll look at that later. Or shall we look at it now? Let's look at it now, since we've just done a simulation. Let's see what we have in here. So we'll just skip all of this that's talking about all of the scenery blueprints, all of the rail vehicle files. All we're bothered about is, for now, going to the end. Here we go. So timetable fully simulated, and that's the finish time. Timetable simulation took 45 seconds. Of course, if you've got more information in your timetable, it'll take longer. Service 1 completed all of its instructions successfully, and the 313 service completed all of its instructions successfully. So yeah, it all looks good. So if we have a look here, we have the master data track for the main part of the timetable for the 377, and we've also got the data tracks for the layer as well. So great stuff. That's good news. If we minimize this for now and go back to the editor, anytime that we want to check the timetable or edit the timetable, we always need to load the map up. There is an option to favorite the maps, the levels, if you need to. So here we've got the data tracks that we've just simulated, the 313 and the master data tracks. So those should already be assigned in our timetable. So here are the master data tracks in here, in the timetable defaults. If we open up the layer defaults, they now have data tracks. And something that occurred now is because if I go into here, these load unloads that we've set to have their completion and arrival time to be simulated, it's now simulated all of these timings for us, so we don't have to put them in manually. We can just leave it to the simulation to do so. We also have information in the playback feature. So instead of having to manually go into the level itself, like we did in the previous section, where we loaded in, we went into the train, we powered it up, and we could have ran it that way, but it would have taken us, what would it have taken us? 20 minutes. It would have taken us 20 minutes to go through that, unless we put some commands in like slow-mo, which allows you to speed up time. Simulations, you saw that only took 45 seconds. Way easier. So in this playback feature, if we actually find, here we go, the train that we need. Alternatively, you can show service on map. You can also follow it on the map. Really useful feature if you have an issue with a train, you're not sure whereabouts on the route that it occurs, you can follow the service. You have playback tools, playback buttons here, so you can jump to the very start, which is the very start of the simulation. Obviously we don't have anything running there, so we don't need to do that. You have a step backwards feature, a step forwards feature, jump to end, and the play and pause button right there. There is a playback speed, so if you need it to go a little bit faster, you can do. So if we press play, that's now at double speed. You can set this to be whatever speed you require. And then if we just set this to 10 for now. So it's currently doing the load unload instruction. That's why it's sat there for a little while. And now it sets off. And we can follow this train all the way along the route if we require. We're not going to do that. But what else can I tell you about this? The layers are labeled. So we've got the 313 layer in an entirely different section of the playback tool to everything that's in the main timetable. So that's a good way to distinguish that. And yeah, this tool is really useful for troubleshooting. Say that if your train doesn't actually end up at its endpoint, this will most likely show you why it hasn't arrived at that location. So if we follow the 313, the 313 goes all the way to Brighton successfully. You can see somewhere along here they cross over. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the playback tool. In terms of reading the output log, that's fine as well. Data tracks have been covered. If you have a problem with simulating the timetable. So let's actually manufacture a problem into this timetable. Let's say, I don't know, we want to go and change that to be Farmer Platform 2. The timetable will be like, that's fine, I can do that. It's not really what we want, but if we save that and then close it, go into the batch file and let it do another simulation. We can then look in the output log after it's done a simulation, and it'll basically tell us that the train has done a stop at location twice. So we'll just let it run through now. It does take a moment to get started. There we go. So if we were to watch this now, I mean, we know what we're looking out for this time round, but I'll just show you for training purposes. So we'll close this and we will open the logs. We'll get the latest log, open that in Notepad++. Yes, we want to let's try that again. Open this one in Notepad++. And then we're just going to scroll down to the bottom. Actually, what we can do is use Control F. We'll look for Farmer Station. Here we go. So we've got Service 1 departing from Millscombe Platform 2. We then have the 313 passing as well. It'll tell you all of the signals that it passes through. This is basically just a text version of what we viewed on the playback. But yeah, you have this option or you have the playback feature to find whatever issues that may occur in your timetable. And I think that covers everything, because once you have data tracks, you and a successfully simulated timetable, so that there are no late trains, no services still outstanding, no failed services, obviously, you can load the game up from the main menu and access all of your services from the menu. Cool. I think that's everything covered.